Secretary Vilsack for your commitment to the issues that we are addressing in this hearing, which has long been overdue at the full committee level. And I want to also just, applaud my colleagues for their patience and their steadfastness in getting to the meat of the issues here in this hearing. Secretary Vilsack, one of the questions that I have is related to the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program and CFAP2 payments, which have been successfully compensated all producers, at least partially, who have experienced unexpected economic loss costs due to the COVID-19 during the second through fourth quarters of 2020. Are we aware, or what are the mechanisms and data that we have to know that CFAP2 funds have been distributed in a fair manner to every producer and for every commodity sector that experienced COVID-19 related costs? I ask that question in particular as you have shown through your quick, appointment to agriculture, the disparity in distribution to Black farmers in the other funding.
If you take a look at the payments that have been made to those who have self-identified as white, Black, and other socially disadvantaged categories, in CFAP1 and CFAP2, Black farmers would have received approximately $20 to $21 million. White farmers, white men and women farmers would have received $5.6 billion. So that's why I think that one of the things you did in the American Rescue Plan was to essentially understand and appreciate the disparity in terms of how the COVID relief was distributed, in terms of how much went to white farmers and how much went to socially disadvantaged farmers. And part of what you've done, I think, is you've basically created a better sense of balance, if you will, in the COVID relief efforts. We tried to complement that recently with the announcement that we're going to do additional outreach on CFAP2 to make sure that those socially disadvantaged producers that have not yet applied for the ability to participate in that program are given a 60-day opportunity to do so. And the hope is, with additional outreach, that we'll see more applications from socially disadvantaged producers.
Thank you. As a follow-up to that question, sir, Mr. Secretary, with the step relief that has been provided for Black farmers, is there an assumption, or shouldn't there be an assumption, that other tacit forms of discrimination at the department need to be corrected? And what is being done to identify what those other areas might have been and how they can be rectified and monitored?
Well, there are three parts to the American Rescue Plan. We talked about debt relief, and we've also talked about the $1 billion that could potentially increase outreach, land access, and financial marketing. The third element is the Equity Commission. And this commission is going to be an external commission that's going to take a detailed look at every single aspect of USDA's activities to determine and to identify those systemic barriers that may exist in the way in which programs are operated. At the same time that that is going on, we're also going to have, pursuant to President Biden's executive order, an internal review. We already have a working group that has been established. They've already begun the process of assessing our benefits, our services, our contracts, and our procurements. And I would put particular emphasis in response to your question on the issue of contracts and procurements, as we're looking at ways of increasing market opportunities, especially for small and mid-sized operators, for socially disadvantaged farmers, for beginning farmers. The opportunity to use federal purchasing power, the procurement power of the federal government, may be a strategy that will provide some quick wins, if you will, in terms of market access. And that's something I hope our team will be taking a very close look at.
Thank you. And as a final thought, in having conversations with some of the witnesses prior to the hearing today, I'm particularly moved by and concerned with regard to discussions with Mr. Boyd, where he talked about not necessarily just at the Department of Agriculture, but in the whole life cycle of Black farming, issues of access to farm credit, to bank loans, even to have those companies who they rely on for equipment to have different policies and leverages for Black farmers than they do for others. have you been thinking of, or would you be willing to sit with us as legislators to come up with ways to both incentivize those organizations and those outside and private entities to support Black farming, to grow it, as well as to find ways to enforce federal law against discrimination and to support them?
Has expired.
Right.
I now recognize
May he answer the question, Mr. Chairman?
Dakota.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just respond yes to your question,
Thank
Carmen.
you.